So how much would you say that price matters when you're talking about quality and trying to market to certain people and differentiating different products like the shakes and the burgers, that kind of thing?
It's in our world, it's a huge point of differentiation. So as an example, uh, we've taken a great deal of pain in developing this concept to move towards a very high-end, very high-quality product.
Right.
You know, to not compete with McDonald's, although McDonald's in our world is a competitor. That gives us a couple of advantages. One, we're perceived as being healthy eating, which in our market is a big deal. We can also gain from that from a pricing perspective. We can price higher, and people will recognize the value of what they're getting.
Right.
So it's a huge determining factor in how we operate.
Right. So appealing to the health, you're saying, especially in the restaurant industry.
One of our mantras is no hormones, no antibiotics, those kinds of things, all natural food.
Right.
And consequently, there's an added cost on that on the back end, so we have to gain that benefit through the pricing model.
Right. And that's, you think, is giving you a leg up over, if you have people that are considering like going to McDonald's or going to Five Guys, that kind of thing.
I think absolutely. Consumers make a choice.
Okay. So how specifically do you try to determine your prices depending on if it's a healthy option, or like if it's an especially healthy option, or if it's a one of the more like normal burgers or that kind of thing?
We don't do it essentially from identifying each individual item. We do it from identifying our operating standard, and we place a pretty good margin value on that. But again, I talked about this idea of marginal propensity, and when does a consumer look at us and go, hey, that's healthy eating, that's a great choice. Right. We like the way they operate, but no way in hell am I paying $15 for a burger. I'm just going to go back to Five Guys because it's not that important.
Right.
To me. It's important to a certain price point.
So it's very important to try and appeal as much as possible to that specific population.
Yep.
How much would you say that taxes and regulations affect the restaurant business in general, Burgatory more specifically?
Well, I'll tell you how it directly impacts consumers. We talk about regulation. 30 years ago, we would build out a restaurant. There was a certain construction cost, and year in and year out, there's always an increase in that cost. So this idea of green regulation came into play, and this idea of energy conservation and those kinds of things really came in the forefront, in the 2004 election cycle.
Okay.
It put it in the mix.
So is that energy, you mean in terms of like running like the actual building and that kind of thing? Like
when you build a building now, you have to meet energy requirements. The cost of those regulatory concessions has been about 30%. So let's assume that the cost of construction would rise year in and year out 2 to 3%, and you assume that in your price model. So from a certain point, it went from that 2-3% to 20% in a single year.
Wow.
It's called ComCheck, and it used to affect people that got federal funding. So schools would build out, and they'd have to comply with ComCheck. That's a construction code.
Okay.
Now it's federally regulated for any building.
Right.
You have to meet ComCheck specifications.
Okay.
The cost of doing that is about a 30% increase in cost of doing business. So that kind of regulation that added cost regulation for this idea of just regulatory authority, on the back end you have to pay for it.
Right.
On the front end you have to price it out. And who pays for that directly is the consumers.
Yeah.
So it has to be rolled into that price
And
model.
so that's something that really all restaurants are dealing with, whether high-end, low-end, fast food, anything.
That is correct.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think that's it for the first 10 so far.
Chris, did you finish the first 10?
Yeah, or the first 7 or so.
First 7? Oh, okay. Are you gonna go to the back?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask the more statistical questions.
Okay.
So we'll do we'll do like customers a day and how much maybe they spend. And then we'll do this comparison. Just forget this one. Is it still going?
Yeah,
Alright.
we're gonna cut this probably.
Actually, build it in.
Alright. So how many customers on average per day do you think come in?
Restaurant to restaurant it varies, but
Right.
on average per day we serve about 500 customers.
Wow.
We do, we can do 1,000 or more on the weekends, 300-400 on the weekdays, and again it varies within
Right.
the
There's
concepts.
kind of a large expected gap between the weekend and the weekday. And is there, would you say like there's a much, like a busiest time like on the weekends as opposed to the weekday, or is it just about the same throughout the entire week?
Weekdays are traditional. Generally we're busier during the traditional lunch hours, 12 to 1:30, 2 o'clock. Dinners, the sun has a lot to do with the dinners. In the winter, dinners are earlier because the sun sets earlier.
Right.
In the summers, it's later. People elongate their days, so
Like
dinners tend to start
psychological,
later.
yeah.
But on the weekends, it's pretty much steady as you go. We're busy from the time we open until the time we close.
And on average, how much does the average customer spend when they come in?
So an average single guest will spend about $18, a little bit over
Okay.
that. And then an average guest check is something else we look at, is about $42. So each check is about 2.3 customers. And those are things that we look at in our restaurant economics to make determinations.
And the vast majority of people coming in, I assume, are ordering a burger of some kind.
They are vast majority.
Right. What about for the shakes? Do you
About
see?
10% of sales
Oh,
are for
wow.
shakes. So
Okay.
it's a huge component.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And you said you have 6 different locations
We do.
throughout Pittsburgh. And location-wise, or for any other reason, do you see like a large difference in perhaps like the profit of one location over another, or are they pretty much the same, or?
The profit margins are pretty much the same. The amount of money they draw in are a little bit different. We have higher sales restaurants. Our Robinson store is an example. Great location in the middle of a busy mall,
Right.
on a busily traveled highway, easy accessibility, near an airport. So we do get a lot of traffic. There are office parks in and around that area.
Right.
So that store has a lot of built-in business, but they also have a lot of destination business, which makes it a great location for us. So then you go out to Murraysville, hard to get in and out, smaller mall, smaller population density. The mall isn't occupied at 100%, so we have to be the draw. So in other words, in Robinson, we may not be the destination that people are going to choose.
Right.
We like to think we are, but they're there for other reasons. And then after those reasons, they say, hey, let's go to this place we think is a great place to go. Well, in Murraysville, the reason we're going out to that mall and going
Is
to
to get a burger,
Murraysville
right.
is to go to Burgatory.
Right.
So it doesn't have the other added components that
Right.
some of the busier stores have.
So, is there any different aim or any different kind of marketing you do, location to location, to try to bring in more business in one place as opposed to another, or it's pretty much the same throughout?
Typically, we have not done any marketing other than social media. And given our sales, that's a pretty impressive thing. With our growth in sales, that lets us know the consumers are receptive to what we're doing. We are
Right.
starting down the road of doing some marketing, and we're trying to figure out what's going to work. Directed marketing, mailers, those kinds of things, billboard marketing, and see what plays off and
That's
draws the
good.
consumers in a little bit more. And we'll measure traffic in those time frames. But we're just starting to get into some marketing because it's something we want to try to do, not
Right.
necessarily because I think we need to,
Right.
but we feel it's a good. We're at a point now where it's probably something that we want to do.
And so, whenever you're thinking about opening a new location, do any of the other businesses or like restaurants, whether they're more high end or low end, or like fast food, for example, if there's any kinds of previously like already established restaurants in the vicinity, does that have a very large impact on whether you decide to still open a restaurant there, or?
It does, and oddly enough, if there is competition in the area and that competition is not doing well, that's going to be a detriment. That's a market that we're probably not going to look into.
Oh, okay.
If we look at a market and those places are doing very well, then we'll start looking at that particular market as something we're interested in. One, we think we can compete with anybody in that market. But two, if the existing market isn't doing well, it makes no practical sense to
Go in there. Yeah.
Because then you're saying to yourself, well, because we're there, people will come. You know, that idea to build it and they will come, that works in the movies and in baseball fields.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily work for restaurant groups.
Right. Is there anything else to ask, talk about?
Nope.
I don't know. How long is it? I mean, I know I've cut like so much of it out, but like
10,
Alright.
15 minutes
I mean,
plus,
yeah, we're
plus
not
the,
gonna go to 15. But
yeah.
so.
How long do you need?
I don't know. I mean, really, I think he just wants around the 10-minute ballpark of just. I try to make it as conversational as possible. Obviously, like you can tell that I know nothing about economics, but it's just like I mean this. But I mean, because the idea, especially like the 60 minutes, is to try to make it. It's not just like question answer. I try to build off of answers, not just move on to the next question in the list as much as possible.
That will serve you well in life.
I try, but.
I think it was good.
All right,
Yeah,
but
it was
I mean,
excellent.
We're gonna keep this part in. This whole give and take.
Yeah, we're not gonna cut this. It's straight on me.
This will be one of the outtakes.
Yeah.
So when it goes on YouTube, you can do it as an outtake.
All right. Okay. Yeah, and I think if I could just have like a little bit of information about like maybe the change in something over time, just to compare it to other restaurants.
Well, think about something that's changed probably the greatest. So.
Okay.
I feel
Or
like
even
we've
if
got
something,
rapid-
even if something hasn't changed, and we compare it to a restaurant
Yeah.
that has changed a lot, there's still something to talk about. So it really,
So
it really.
are you going high end?
Well, yeah, we can choose which way we want to go with this because we can Google like for McDonald's and Five Guys and other chains like that. We can Google like how much something might have changed over time, and like I can just find that online. And we could go two roads. Like we can go in one way, which is saying compare it to other like not fast food places, places that are more high end, or we could just say compare it to places in the local vicinity, whether that is high or low, and just see is it quality or quantity.
I have a question. Do you guys ever go to Five Guys?
Well, my daughters go to Pitt, so I've eaten at Five Guys twice. I'm appalled at the pricing, but I'm cheap, so it's one of those things.
I think it's expensive for not
It
good
is.
quality.
Yeah,
I think
it really is for what you get. It's
Right. I think some of these places, it's all about just when people are in a rush, it's an option, and I think sometimes it's just all about time. Like obviously, if you have time, then you're not
That's
going
why
to go
McDonald's
there.
is my favorite restaurant.
Yeah, that's true.
But besides time, there's not much else.
I can actually give you the standard deluxe when we first opened was $9, and then 2-3 years later it was $9.50, and with this upcoming menu change that's coming out at the end of the month, it's going to be $10.
When you guys raise the prices, do the customers usually notice?
Ooh, I think we're getting to the point where they will. It's weird what people pick up on.
Yeah.
So they probably noticed when we started to charge for sauces and sides on a more regular basis than they would recognize a price change.
Yeah.
Pittsburghers are very price sensitive
Yeah,
to ranch.
they're very price sensitive to ranch.
Wow.
They get the general idea that I understand why I'm paying for the burger, but don't you get your mayonnaise and ranch for free? So it's one of those things where everything that comes in we have to pay for. So.
Right.
Well, and we make it in-house. It's
And-
not
yeah.
like a bottled ranch.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I do like me some Hidden Valley Ranch. Or Vince's Ranch.
Vince's Ranch.
Vince's Ranch is good. But we generally, when we do a price change, it's always one of those, we'll see what's going to happen here kind of things.
Who made this company?
What's up?
Who made this restaurant?
Who made it?
Yeah.
Her dad probably is the operations end. We all kind of contributed in, but the way the restaurants look, Mike has just over the years. We started over 2 decades ago, and he's always kind of had the design eye for how we look. That's his thing. So that's why they look the way they do. And he never takes or gets credit for it, but that design has won some awards over time.
Yeah.
So, but that's Mr. Hanley.
It's awesome.
Cool dad.
Cool dad. I just miss the old barnwood. I wish we had a video the first time that we brought the barnwood in. It was just Mike, Sam, and I. We were just like trying to clean them. It's in Fox Chapel, just trying to get that barnwood clean. It was something. So it was a good time. All right. How's school otherwise? You guys like school? You hate school?
Term
What
one just
year?
ended, so I'm a senior.
I like
juniors.
education, but I don't like work.
So you're going to be a professor someday.
Oh, I was thinking about that.
That is definitely the way to go. You'll be all right. And how do you feel about it?
I like it. It's the work too that gets you though. Like going to school, it's fun, but
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I mean, I don't know, like English final turned in, had linear final for 2 hours this morning, so like term's over, so like I'm just done. I mean, long weekend, I'm just
You're done
piecing.
with it.
Yeah, I'm just,
Now, do you guys commute up there? Do you stay?
Oh, I commute. Yeah.
yes. Did you board 1 year?
Oh, it was another school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Philadelphia,
Oh, okay.
near Philadelphia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
There's a lot of international students that come now because we opened it, like Shadyside opened it up to 7-day boarding. So there's a lot of students from like China and they stay over there like on the weekends too.
And even
stuff.
from Germany and Greece.
Right, like
Greece
we got a
this year.
German on the hockey team.
Yeah, and Greece this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's because they have no education in Greece anymore
Hungry?
because
Yeah.
the austerity.
Who?
Austerity cut out education.
I don't know a lot
So
of
she's-
names.
Now, do you know Cindy Wise?
Oh yeah. She's in the like the food like the meds department, right?
Cindy was my kitchen
Oh,
manager
right.
at Fuel and Funnel years ago.
Oh wow. Okay. See, I had to do something with her last year because we were trying. I was in like an intro to economics course last year, which can't say like I learned anything in that either. But like
So the intro course didn't set anything up
the
for
intro, but like we had to like coordinate with her because we wanted to try selling like disposable water bottles at school, but, like right beside the plastic ones
Yeah.
to see, and we made them cheaper than the plastic ones, and the idea was like we tried to advertise to the student body like, look, like they're cheaper and they're reusable, so like buy these instead of the other ones, and then we compared like the sales
How'd that work out?
for a whole week. And knowing the Shadyside population, where you just pull out your phone and spend your parents $5 on a plastic water bottle, they did not sell very well. So that was about a dud of it. But we had to talk to her about selling it and that kind of, because she's in charge of all that. And
So
she-
they would not go for the recyclable.
I mean, we sold like we didn't have like trouble selling them. Like we sold like I don't know, like a couple hundred.